Today we're going to be talking about youth voice and how it affects today's society.
Sometimes people kind of just forget like how it feels to be like younger. Obviously a lot of people have like a really bad time during GCSEs. Like for some reason I feel like it's worse than A-levels in terms of mental health problems. But like I saw like a Facebook post or something and somebody talking about like why is it okay that everyone just like accepts, oh yeah, you're gonna have a breakdown during GCSEs, that's fine, it's like your initiation into adulthood. And it's like, why is that an okay thing for everyone to accept? And then there was all these comments from adults being like, you don't know anything until you've gone to university, until you've got a job, until you've done this. Like, these hurdles are so much bigger. And I was like, but this is the biggest hurdle these people have ever faced. Like, GCSEs, this is the biggest hurdle so far in their lives. And they don't know what it's like to have a job or go to university. And so they can't relate to your struggles, but you need to try and relate to theirs because you have gone through theirs and you could potentially help their struggles. Like, it was a weird lack of empathy that, like, really threw me.
One of the issues that youth voice faces is visibility of youth voice, because obviously we're all really privileged to be here and be, working for a charity that provides youth voice. But I think it's the question of how you get kind of normal people to have their say, sort of normal young people, which obviously it's a problem for just everyone to be heard. But when young people are a kind of invisible group already in society, to have a way that people know that they can have their voices listened to, because there are programs, like with CAMS, you can fill in surveys, etc., and you can do that for a lot of services. But I think young people don't feel comfortable doing that normally in those conventional ways. So I guess I think stuff like green papers, they're great for young people to be involved with, but I think you also need that kind of broader, low-level youth voice.
I think on that, it's just a thing of like how you show people like what youth voice does and like what it can sort of give them. So I think we've just started like an Instagram page for Youth Cabinet, and it's like we have a motto in there which is like bridging the gap between young people's voices and organisations. So I think that really just nails down what we're about, what young people's like youth voice is about, and how we're all about getting young people's voices heard, even when they feel like they might be invisible or silent and no one can hear them, especially in our organisations. I think it's definitely about that.
I was on like a focus group thing recently for mental health thing. I'm not really sure like what like change it's going to affect yet, but it was quite interesting to talk about like ideas to improve mental health services and stuff, because like going through like mental health services, it does feel a lot like no matter what you say, it's not really going to have that much of a difference. So it was really like therapeutic to like be on this focus group and actually have a say. Like it felt a lot better than being in the service and feeling kind of voiceless.
Yeah, so I think like another example of what we do is definitely come across with like action groups that we have. So this is sort of specifically a youth parliament thing. I'm not too sure whether you're supposed to do it as well, but where sort of we get a group of young people together, we talk about what views we've had told to us by the young people in maybe our area, West, East, North, Sheffield, or from our schools, from our teachers even, just from people who are affiliated with young people and how their lives are. And we just sort of try and make issues or even think like, or just improve situations, I guess. So there's all different subjects, there's mental health, LGBTQ+, transport, there's loads of different subjects, and I think it's really good that we have a sort of medium for where specific views can be shared across from young people to definitely organisations and organisations specifically like Sheffield Futures.
Alright, so mine's a bit more common. You guys speak a lot more posh than me. But I was on a little like group where we went and talked to the safeguarding board about drug use within young people and substance and how to talk to young people and things like that. And then we ended up finding out that safeguarding rewrit a couple of the rules and changed them a little bit, so to help the young people that we were trying to help by giving like our put. That was nice to know.
I think,
know me and
but
you've done a couple.
I think drugs and substance misuse is a particularly interesting example because that's one of those areas where I think you really do see differing attitudes between young people and people of an older generation. And I think that's not just, our generation and other generations. I think that's young people and people as they get older. I think people's views on drugs tend to change as they get older. And that's not necessarily to say that young people's views on drugs are the correct views on drugs, that they're better than people who are older, but they are distinctly different. And I think that applies for more topics than people would perhaps at first imagine. So giving young people the opportunity to, for example, challenge the kind of traditional beliefs around some of the newer drugs by saying, or beliefs around addiction. So someone in one of the focus groups I was in was saying that, there are levels of recreational drug use that are perfectly fine, basically, and that was, I think, an interesting, that's not really a point of view that I think most people kind of in their 40s would hold anymore. And I guess it's important for young people to remind people who are no longer young people of the ways that they used to think.
And yeah, just on that, I think it's like all about sort of having open-mindedness on that sort of subject and different subjects that maybe differ with generations and just as you get older. I think and Youth Voices is really good at sort of making minds more open, like making people sort of understand views that maybe they might not have themselves a little bit better. So, for example, drug misuse. I think it's a really hard subject to explain to someone who may not have experienced it, and it's really hard for maybe someone who doesn't have the same view as you. But I think Youth Voice really helps with that because it helps get our say in the matter, because you see in the media all these different views from people who are generally older people in headlines, etc. And I just think that it's really important that young people get their view on matters like these as well, and I think Youth Voice is extremely good at delivering that.
Yeah, I think on the kind of on that about the media and stuff and how generally young people are invisible in the media, I think that is one of the sadder things about the kind of evolution of youth culture almost in the last sort of 50, 60 years since World War II. Obviously before that wasn't really a kind of youth culture. You were just a child and then you were an adult. And that obviously had many, many things that were terrible about it, such as child labour and the general kind of, lack of safety for young people. But I think that one thing that did mean is that, again, if you were rich and white, but when you got to kind of 18, your voice would be largely as well respected as people who are much older than you. And when you became an adult, you were kind of given a greater level of autonomy, I think, than perhaps people nowadays are. And I think also we're in education for longer, which is a great thing. But I think that what that means is that people don't see people as kind of real adults until they finish university. And if you're not a real adult, then you don't get listened to, because you can't possibly know as much as people who are real adults. And I think